Hi, hey, hello everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Driftwood Wharf. Here we are on the FizzCraft server, and today I would like to focus a little bit more on building up the base. But before we get to that, I want to go over a few updates that I've done so far. The first update I like to go over is the terraforming that I've been doing around Driftwood Wharf. I have recorded this, but I like to just include these as little updates here and there instead, because they're not like massive build changes, they're kind of just like things I chip away at little by little. So we have our iron farm here that I have replaced the side of it with some sand and some wood as well to texture it out. Eventually I plan to replace the plain stone with textured out deep slate. We got some basalt and some dead coral as well to make the plain stone feel a little bit more, I don't know, the vibe. To really match this area that we have down here. And over on this side, I have done the same. We have the darker sand that kind of looks like it's wet sand even, mixed into some dead coral and some deep slate and basalt as well. And of course, Driftwood Wharf would not be Driftwood Wharf without a little bit of driftwood. So seeing how the terrain is in this little pocket of the ocean, I decided to also add some driftwood. I think it's a nice touch. Again, this is not like a big thing that I'm changing and doing, all at once as a big build, and that's why it's not really getting an episode on its own. It's just like little things that I kind of like mindlessly not really narrating work at in the background. Terraforming is not really my favorite thing to do, and so I prefer to do it in kind of like little amounts at a time. It really helps not get burnt out, especially when you have like so many other things going on. So that's the major updates so far that I've done. Oh wait, hold on. Actually, I forgot this as well. I added a little detail. This is some trees and some pots here, and I added an armor stand in here to make it look like little roots. Again, a very tiny detail, but it kind of, when I'm doing something I don't really like to do, I gotta give myself a cookie. This is my cookie. I reward myself by adding little details, and that makes me happy. As you may have noticed, I've also added a small detail here with a lead. There's a boat somewhere stuck in here, and the lead connects across this way. This is supposed to look like suspension cables, kind of like nonsense suspension cables, really. But it's just like a little like something else that's not a block, right? A little something else that kind of like breaks up what is there. And as I'm picking away at this terraforming slowly, slowly but surely, eventually I want the terraforming to extend from all the way over there, all the way past that way, like past to where that tree is, basically. On to more updates I've done over the few days. So over here, I have not touched this at all, and that's the update. No, I'm just kidding. I have touched it a little bit. I've been kind of just watching these to see how inefficient they are. And I noticed something very specific about my kelp farm. Well, my bone meal farm, right? As you can see, I only have 2. This is crazy. Whereas I have like, a ton of honeycomb. And I sat beside myself and I said, okay, there's something clearly wrong with the kelp farm, right? All these ones are slowly inefficient in their own ways, but this one is just not working. And I couldn't figure out what it was. And then I, in my genius of ways, I Googled my problems. And I found a Reddit thread that had said that pistons can override the source water block inside of a column of water. And that's why my kelp wasn't growing. So the kelp was like 1 block tall for the longest time. And I didn't know why. I thought it was because I'm always over there, doing my terraforming and stuff. And so I thought, oh, maybe it's just not like loaded chunks or whatever, maybe that's what it was. But one time I AFK'd here for a little bit longer just to see, and it still didn't grow. So this is the part of redstone farms that is going to take me insanely long to learn, because I wouldn't have known that, unless I Googled my problem of why isn't my kelp farm working, like I wouldn't have known that pistons overwrite source blocks. Like I didn't know that. They should have like a university for redstone. That's probably a series somewhere. Someone has probably done a series on YouTube called like Redstone University or something to that extent, because that's what it feels like I'm doing. I feel like I'm going to Redstone University and I'm flunking every class. This is like barely even redstone. This is just like farming university. All right, on to the next update that I've added to Driftwood Wharf. Over here, we have our lovely guardian of the bubble columns. Hello, guardian. Well, I guess drowned, not guardian, but you guys get what I mean. Ba, 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 ba. And down we go. Alrighty, so some time ago, I mentioned that I built this on stream, this bamboo farm, and I wanted to add an auto crafter to it that would auto craft some of those blocks into, or some of those bamboo into blocks, because I was getting an overflow of regular bamboo. And so, of course, in my genius, I Googled how to use an auto crafter, because for the longest time, okay, since the auto crafter came out, I thought you just added a clock to the crafter, and then it would just, you know, do its thing. But when it comes to bamboo, sometimes I guess you can accidentally make sticks. I don't know. Or you can accidentally turn planks into buttons, something like that. So I was like, okay, well, let's make a good one. A good one, right? So I Google searched, right? And apparently, you got to use comparators. And I was like, all right, I'm going to learn how to use a comparator. I'm going to learn what this means. And in that tutorial, I learned that I needed a comparator and also a target block. Two things redstone related that I was not super familiar with what they did. But I have now learned what this does, and I would like to explain it to you in my tiny baby words. Basically, this comparator... Oh. Basically, this comparator... I think comparators should be renamed to readers, because I feel like reader is more accurate to what it does. Let me explain. This comparator is reading the level at which this is. Okay, so this is a composter that's fully filled, and it is it can be read at a redstone signal of 8. What does that mean? What that means is some blocks in Minecraft, when you put the comparator, aka reader, in my words, next to it, it will read out a signal. So those blocks include a composter, a chest, or also a lectern, which I don't have with me because I'm not prepared for this lesson. And composters can admit between 0 and 8 signals. And so since this one can only go max 8, once this one is higher than this one, then it repeats the signal over again to then fire the crafter. But much like terraforming, redstone is another thing that I'm slowly but surely picking away at in the background. As you may recall from the previous episode, we had a Blood Club meeting, and I mentioned that there would be a zine, or magazine if you will, at some point, and I have finished it, and I've had these sent out via Larry Pop's post office. I would read this to you guys here, but I think I'd rather you guys read this via one of the other FizzCraft members' episodes, perhaps. Hopefully at least one person includes this in one of their episodes. This is 20 pages long, and I'm not here for story time. I am, of course, working on the second edition, but this is kind of like another side thing that I hope other folks enjoy, and it kind of just to little like flavor. I don't know, add a little flavor to their mailbox, if you wish. And that's it for all the updates that happened in between this episode and the last. I do know, I apologize, I was a little wordy, but you know, those are a lot of things here and there. Now to get on with the meat of the episode, we have here a section that I've been wanting to work on for quite some time. And I was kind of like on the fence of like what I wanted to do with this spot, but I know exactly what I need to do now. We have a major issue. We have a major issue, and that major issue is our storage is too small. I love my storage. I love my storage to bits. This is like my favorite place to run through. Running back and forth between here, getting stuff, running back out, it's great. Thing is though, I don't have enough chests for my wood types, and I am packed chock full of stone. I have so much stone to my name, and it's it's a problem. It's become so much of a problem that I actually started storing overflow items in my basement, which I don't want to do because it's too far away from my main base. And another thing I don't want to do is make an auto storage system. I'm not an auto storage person. I'm not an auto storage person yet. Maybe sometime in the future I will be, but not right now. And until I am, I'm never going to do one. Right? Right. So what we're going to do to solve our storage problem is we're actually going to make another storage. Right? That's the solution. Driftwood Wharf is a wharf made of driftwood, as one may say. Driftwood from what, you might ask? Well, driftwood from shipwrecks, of course, and other boats and ferries that pass by. Now, I've been sitting on this idea for quite a while, and I've come to the conclusion that the storage area design should be extended in a way. It should keep the same general kind of like cove. I like the cove thing going on, you know, like pirate booty cove, you know, whatever it's called. Yeah. I think it should keep the same design. In terms of like the block palette, we have this kind of shelf thing going on. I don't know how to word these things, you know? It's kind of just like stuff that pops out of my brain. I'm like, yeah, that looks good. We have like, you know, we have evidence of I was about to say drag path. We have evidence of a tide that ebbs and flows through, and I think that should extend into our cove here. But I kind of want to do something about the nether portal that's above as well. We have this nether portal and church, whatever, you know, like thing, a part of the village. I need to demolish this is what I'm getting at. So this is going to go, and we're going to extend our storage into this section over here, continuing with the existing pallet, of course, and the existing kind of like furniture, if you want to call it that. What would we call this? We would call this furniture, right? Like the way that I use the scaffoldings with the trapdoors as shelves, in a way. Oh, speaking of shelves, I didn't use any shelves yet, besides for the message board. That's another thing that we got to add to the place, you know? I'm very excited to see how this turns out. I have it all sketched out on paper, and well, I'll see y'all on the flip side, I guess. All right, as we go back and forth between this little time lapse, I'd like to chat about my process for the storage. Now, I have a little piece of paper here. I don't know if the mic's picking it up, but I actually wrote down some of my notes for the process because I tend to forget what I do immediately after I do it. So here we go. So we have two needs here, right? We need to expand the storage area, and also we need some sort of housing or some sort of casing shell of some kind for all of my mini farms, right? Both of which are kind of like needs that I've inflicted upon myself, really. You don't have to have an aesthetic, you know, housing for your mini farms, and for my storage, I mean, I could just add more chests because there is room physically, but I want to keep that same Coral Cove aesthetic, and I don't want it to get too cluttered, and it's already pretty tight as it is. So I've blocked out some of the real estate that's behind the storage into that section of land. And I've also decided to do something with the surface as well. Now, before I get really into the concept and the design that I'm going for here for this storage area, I kind of want to go over how I plan things. As you've noticed for most of Driftwood Wharf, I have not planned anything. No, I have planned things. But the way I plan things is a little bit different. Instead of gridding out and being like, okay, there's going to be a house here, and there's going to be a farm here, and then over here, there's going to be this and that, and you know, instead of like placing exactly what I'm going to have where, and kind of like city planning, for Driftwood Wharf, I've decided to do things as they come to a need. Because in the past, when I've done that city planning process, I actually tend to give up more quickly, and I tend to lose steam. There's something about like committing to an idea or committing to a set plan that really demotivates me is the closest word I can think of right now in this moment. And so a more like emergent and iterative kind of planning versus like a committed planning is what I'm going for here. I find it a lot more exciting, honestly, and I find it a lot more, I don't know, it's you know, going with the flow, you know? Here. No! Get out of there! Get back on my shoulder, please. Thank you. So for the concept and the origin of this idea, I've actually had since like episode 2. How I'm executing this emergent or like iterative style of planning, I give myself the opportunity to shelve ideas. Literally, I have a shelf right here, as you can see, as my metaphor. Having, okay, I'm gonna have exactly this building A, building B, farm 1, farm 2, farm 3, exactly in these locations, and this is what the village planning is gonna be and all that kind of stuff. Instead of doing that, I shelve all those ideas, and then as I feel the need for them, that's when I'll start actually designing them. I've found in my own experience for myself that my ideas become more satisfying to execute and more exciting to execute when I let them kind of like age, you know? And so that's what I mean by shelving the idea. When the idea kind of just like comes to my head, okay, I put it back on the shelf. It also lets me kind of like let the feeling settle because like what if I have an idea in the moment and then I actually don't really care for it? Then it's kind of just like another tool that I have in my toolbox I can maybe pull out later for another idea. And so moving on with explaining what I'm actually building here, ever since episode 2 or even episode 1, I've actually had this concept for a ship that should be built here. If you follow me on all my other content, you probably already know I really like nautical themes, and I tend to build around coastlines and on islands and stuff very often. It's like my favorite thing to do in Minecraft is like ocean related, ocean adjacent kind of themes and water adjacent builds. But I've had this idea for a ship for a really long time, but I could not figure out like, okay, do I want it in the water? Do I want it out of the water? Like, what do I want for Driftwood Wharf? What would feel the best, because there's the driftwood part of Driftwood Wharf, and then there's the wharf part of the Driftwood Wharf, you know what I mean? There's a lot of, like, opportunity of, like, how I can go about with what I could do for my first ship at least. Of course, this is not gonna be the last ship. I'm gonna have many ships that are gonna be here. I do, a little spoilers. I do plan on having many ships here, but this first one, I shelved the idea for many episodes now. What are we on, 8? I shelved this idea since episode 1 or 2, so because I wanted it to really ferment and kind of age, like fine wine in my head. What's really unique about Minecraft shipwrecks uh, that just naturally generate in the ocean, they have a loot table. They have up to 3 chests for the full size ships, and then the half sizes either have 1 or 2. And the front chest actually has things like moss, bamboo, pumpkins, and the back chest can have things like iron, diamonds, paper, things that like I would already find in my storage that I have in my mini farms. And so I decided, hey, there's a kind of like a odd cross where these ideas meet. I should make that happen in this build. And so here we are building a coral cove with a very old ship that has been repurposed and is in reuse for my mini farms. And here we have it, the first large-size ship here at Driftwood Wharf. It is in bits and pieces, but it is in full use, just in different ways. So let me show you guys around. So starting here first, we have the front part of the ship and the middle side, which I'll go over why that is in a moment. But first, we also have the entrance to my storage area right here. So starting off with the top area here, this, at the first part of the ship, is where the top part of the kelp farm is. This part is mostly aesthetic and it doesn't house as much. However, it is very storytelling in how it works. So when it comes to shipwrecks in Minecraft, the structures that you see in the ocean kind of, sometimes they're useful, sometimes they're kind of useless. The front part of the ship actually has the supply chest. And in the supply chest, you can find things like moss, bamboo, food items. And so here we have moss and bamboo growing with kind of like the implication that after a lot of time has passed, even if these items are stuck in a chest, maybe they grow or maybe the chests were broken and gone through and started growing on their own here on land. And I felt it fitting to have the kelp farm peek through here as kind of like a callback to where it once used to be in the ocean. And this top deck is a little communal area for folks to hang out at. I don't really have like a designated hangout spot, and so I decided to keep this top area a little bit like empty-ish, just like flat-ish. For folks to kind of just hang out and chat at. And continuing on from the first part of the ship, we have the middle part of the ship. This is where the pumpkin and melon farms go, along with the bee farm. If you guys remember from the previous episode, I showed them off just a little bit over there. These designs are basically the exact same that I showed over there, except I tiled them to make them like longer. I am not a redstone master, and so I'm kind of using not the most efficient ways, but they do work. I'm getting produce from these, so I do know that they work. Like, let me give you guys a bit of a better view of what this looks like redstone wise. So I designed them with tinted glass and bamboo, literally just because I just think it looks nice, and a little sea glass for lighting. Actually, does that block the lighting? Does that need light? Is this a problem? It might be. That's a fix for later me. Anyways, this works the exact same way that the bamboo farm works. The observer observes when it does a thing, and then it pushes the piston. And that's kind of it. This is not like a revolutionary design anyway, but I really liked how small and compact it got. Hence the name mini farm. And at the end of the day, it produces stuff. Like I'm getting stuff from it. So, you know, I'm not complaining. And if we continue down these stairs, we'll make our way to the new storage area, which is a continuation from the tide pools. Now, I've decided to split my storage into two groups, which doesn't make sense if you're looking at it from a function standpoint, right? On that side, we have our inorganic materials, and on this side, we have our organic materials. If you remember from what I mentioned earlier, shipwrecks they have like a supply chest in the front, and then they have the, you know, like the treasure chest with all of the diamonds and the iron and stuff in the back chests. And I decided that I have the opportunity to also split my storage area the same way. And I just feel that like the form of this leads to the functionality of like, oh, if I need this thing, that I know where it is already. You know, I don't offload that function that is me. I am the function. I don't offload it into a item sorting system. I keep that function as me, and the form is what I follow. Does that make any sense? Sorry, I'm rambling. Anyways, I really like my new storage, and this is how I designed it. Okay. Okay, so here I am at the start of my first storage. If you guys remember. Anybody remember? Okay, so this is... I haven't moved all of the organic materials yet. So for example, prismarine shards, I think are like fish scales, and so this would technically be organic. I haven't moved some of these yet because I'm still kind of like on the fence. Let me know what you guys think. Are prismarine shards considered organic or inorganic, and which side of my storage should I keep those on? But I am keeping dyes on this side, even though many dyes are made with flowers, because I am keeping my glass here and my terracotta, which is the ones that I would use the dyes the most for. And then over here, of course, I have my ores, and then I have some wood kept here for things like torches or like decorative blocks. Here I keep my ores, my copper. I have 3 chests just for copper. It's crazy. And I have dirts and stones. You know, I have all my dirt, my stone, my muds, and you know, my deep slates all stored here. I was so full of stones, and see, to me this makes a lot of sense. All of my inorganic materials are here, and my organic materials are over here. And you may be asking yourself, hey Sly, you're making kind of a long walk from one spot to the other. If I needed to make something like, let's say, a smoker or a crafter that needs multiple one or the other, well, at the end of the day, I like playing this game, so I actually don't mind walking back and forth between here. You know what I mean? So as a more detailed look as to the upgraded area, we have the spruce, dark oak, and pale oak. We have our oak, birch, jungle, acacia, bamboo, all organized and labeled. I just, I gotta use these hanging signs, man. They just look so good. I think what I love the most about them is that they have like 3 different ways you could use them, right? There's the kind that has the post, and then there's the triangle chain look, and then you got like the double chain look. It's just so good. It's like peak. It's good stuff. You guys remember how I said I was going to use shelves at some point? I ended up rarely using them. Any part. I think I used it like once over here. This is where I keep my coral stuff. And I think I'm gonna move my axolotls here, but I have too many axolotls, so I think I need to find them a different home. And then over here is where the kelp farm extends down into, and we could see the sugarcane farm as well. Again, it's not the most efficient, right? What would make this style of farm more efficient is size. And size is not really what I'm going for in this design. I'm going for something that I can simply fit here in the space that I, reside, that I have claimed as my own. I think anything can become more efficient if you simply make it bigger. But also, I'm not like supplying the entire server with sugarcane. I'm supplying myself with sugarcane. So for now, we have this size of a sugarcane farm. And this kelp farm could easily be turned into just a kelp farm. For now, it's a bone meal farm. And if we continue past this way, we exit out to the front again. That is a very quick tour of the upgraded area, but let me go over a few favorite details that I have that I did not quite show yet. So obviously, I've kind of passed by this and not spoken about it at all. We have the mast of the ship that's still standing here that I use to keep my nether portal above. Now, there were a few different ways I could design this, namely being I could have used 1 block wide to design the post, but I decided to go with 2 by 1 instead because it just like seemed a little too thin. But then at the same time, like a 2 by 2 would seem too girthy. I tried a lot of different designs with this, man. I I tried making it taller, I tried making it across, and this was kind of like the best one. I think it's like the best proportionally, I feel, and it's got like a quirkiness to it. Another detail of this ship that I would like to show is that it's been sitting here for quite some time, and so I've allowed a few plants and grasses to start to grow around the edges, and I've also had it sunk in just a little bit. Not too much what'll like occlude the shape of the ship because I do want to retain that, yes, this is the front section of a once rounded out ship, but just enough that it looks like it's been sunken in there. And for the middle section of the ship, I do have a few shelves just to replace the vertical slabs with. And we have this little quirky plank that's sticking out to reveal one of the observers for this farm. Now, you may have noticed that there's 2 sections. There's quite a few sections, actually, where you can see basically the entire farm from. Instead of closing in and, using four walls and a roof to completely cover this thing up, I decided to expose a lot of it and kind of like have sections peeking out the way that this is. So there's this building at my university that I graduated from that would have these like sections of the wall just like missing, but then there would be like a sneaky plaque somewhere that kind of explains like why part of the wall was missing. And it's to describe kind of the sustainability and like how the architecture of the building, so you could see like the bits and pieces of it. And I thought that was really cool, and so I kind of wanted to bring the idea from real life into my build here to kind of expose this section of the build. And I think this was just like the perfect part of popping out one of the planks to show where the observer is, and then you see the line of melons as well, and it kind of like fits perfectly with the what is it called? Redstone torch and the lantern on this side. And you can actually see on this side as well. We have the pumpkins, the lantern, a bit of a leaf, and then this one, the observer's a little bit more hidden. You can see him peeking out just right there. I think it's cute. I think it's I think there's a lot, you could put a redstone farm in a box, or you can make it whimsical, as Chalubi would say. Chalubi uses the word whimsy a lot, and I think it's getting to me, but I think it adds like flavor to it. I don't know, seasoning. And so another detail you may have or may not have noticed is that the color palette is the exact same as another build that we've already done, the fisherman's house, right over there. So do you guys remember how I said this is the front, middle? Well, this is the back. So, originally, actually, my very original design for this, way back in around like episode 2 or 3, when I was originally wanting to build this, uh, it was going to be the front and then the back half. And then the back half, there would be a little house section uh, that would be turned over on its side, and it would be cool the way that it was. Uh, but the real estate that I had wouldn't have fit the proportion unless I made the ship really stumpy, and I didn't want to do that. And so again, that's why I shelf these ideas so I can really digest what I want out of it, like what is the output of the build that I want. And so I ended up building this first, and this was really actually just a house on its own. But after I built it and I realized how much I absolutely loved the blocks that I used for this, like I was just like, yeah, I'm making the ship out of this. I'm continuing this idea really over there. It's a story that tells itself, really. I really want to sell the idea that Driftwood Wharf is a a place where time has already passed, a lot of time has already passed, and time is continuing to pass as this place is being built and as it is, as it is. Like, how old is this ship, you right? How long ago was it that someone took the back piece of this ship and recycled it into a house and put it over there? How much time has passed since the water level used to be all the way up to here and not all the way down here? I'm a huge fan of like Minecraft and its like environmental storytelling, and I really hope that Driftwood Wharf mirrors that same feeling, that same kind of like vibe. When the storytelling is left up to your imagination, then it becomes even more personal because it's something that you're kind of like feeling on your own. Of course, environmental storytelling is whoa. Uh that scared me. I want to see it strike. Come on. You do it. Oh, that was sick. And that's why we put lightning rods on top of other blocks. All right, that's enough lightning. I'm getting scared. All right, where was I? Environmental storytelling. I know it's not like the most digestible, right? It's probably like of all the types of storytelling, it's probably the least digestible because a lot of it's implied and it kind of relies on the the watcher. It requires that person to be actively paying attention, and noticing the small details and things. But I think that's fine, to each their own. I think it creates so many different other stories that could happen in its place. And it doesn't have to be told the exact same way every single time. So I've spoken a little bit about the palette and whatnot of how I built the pieces that are on the surface. Let's talk a little bit about the pieces that I built underneath the surface. As you may recall from the first part of our storage area, we have a bit of like a play on light with the blocks. We have the lighter blocks into darker blocks that also follow the source lights, the lanterns, that's the word. So we have, the lantern, the light source, and then the lighter blocks into darker blocks, and then even over here to darker deep slate. I continued that same, I guess like style. That's the word. I continued that same style in this section as well. Except I decided to use a little bit more deep slate. I feel like my first area didn't use as much deep slate as I wanted to. So I added a bit more deep slate to some sections, and I also used a little bit less lights, I think. It might be roughly the same. And you may notice something else about the lights. I used copper lanterns here instead of the regular lanterns over there. That's because I built that before the copper update, and this is after. And I kind of want to keep it that way just to have that historical kind of like timeline, almost. Instead of replacing all the regular lanterns, I decided to keep the regular lanterns over there and the copper ones over here. And one last thing before I send you guys off to wherever you guys gotta go, I have one thing to actually show you guys. So when I build anything ever, I always give myself a little side project to like distract myself with. Because when I'm like, you know, face in computer screen, placing blocks, you know, going crazy, trying to figure out redstone, I need something else to kind of like calm my mood, to I don't know, make me happy again. The certain other YouTuber that I've seen has informed me that you can actually breed donkeys to have the same stats as horses. And I didn't know that. I thought donkeys were locked at whatever speed they spawn at, but they actually can be bred up to the same speed that you find horses at, which is like pretty fast. Upgraded my my mini HUD UI to include this speed counter at the top right here. That also tells the jump. This is the fastest I was able to get it to, 14 and a jump of 5.2 blocks. They're supposed to be able to jump to 6, and for some reason I just can't get past 6. But the speed I can get up higher. I don't. So I'm assuming, I don't know, maybe there's something wrong with me, but. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you guys very much for coming by, and I hope you all have a good rest of your day. Be sure to follow the other FizzCraft members. Link is in the description as always. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye! Happy holidays and Happy New Year! Bye!